Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Keith Bartels from Tobii Pro USA. I want to first thank you all so much for joining today's very exciting webinar, Eye Tracking Research and Mobile Devices, Unlocking Your New Superpower. The purpose of today's webinar is to expand on the amazing power and versatility of eye tracking, as well as how you can use eye tracking to better understand user experience, design, and interaction with the mobile devices that we see almost every stage of our lives these days. This is a topic that I'm very passionate about, so I can't wait to share some exciting examples, recordings, and to showcase the technology. It's going to be a great session. So come on, let's get started. On the agenda for today, first we're going to do a brief overview of eye tracking. We'll then move to the main topic of discussion, eye tracking and mobile device research. We'll then unpack the Tobii Pro offering, and we'll finish out today with a Q&A session. As a quick reminder, if you do have any questions that come up during the session, please feel free to send those into the chat window and we'll be sure to address them at the end. Alright, let's hop into our first topic. What is eye tracking and how does it work? Have you ever wondered what a person was looking at as they scanned a product, checked out a website, or just looked around an environment? As humans, vision is our most developed and most important sense, as much of our knowledge of the external world is gathered by using our eyes. Where you place your gaze and how you move your gaze is associated with what you pay attention to and can reveal how you behave, even what you think. Now, imagine a technology that can accurately locate the eye and track attention in almost any situation. This is eye tracking. The idea of when and where a person is looking and for how long can reveal a wealth of information behind interest and understanding. The current methods and approaches for understanding, such as surveys, focus groups, shadowing, those are all great, but with eye tracking you can actually take your understanding and research to that next level. And the great thing is with eye tracking today, it's now unobtrusive, it's not going to block any of the visual field. Eye trackers can be placed at the base of a laptop or a monitor. They can be worn on the face in a glasses form factor. They can even track attention within the most advanced VR headsets on the market today. It's truly a limitless technology. And to demonstrate this limitless technology in action, let's take a look at a fun video we put together. This is essentially a day in the life with eye tracking. The red circle you see in this video represents the precise attention of the participants as they complete a variety of different tasks. And I really love this video because it really speaks to the versatility of this technology. So whether it's indoors, it's outdoors, it's smart devices, it's in-home or in-car, eye tracking is going to give you that front row perspective to exactly what the person was looking at, what they weren't looking at, for how long, and you can then use this to really understand the experience with your product, your message, or your content. And now let's move on to the main topic and the reason that we're all here, using eye tracking with mobile device research. I'm going to start by looking at the powerful bond between humans and mobile devices. And to do this, I also want to bring in a personal story and describe my experience growing up with mobile devices. So when I was a kid, around 14, when cell phones finally left the in-car massive installations and became more handheld devices, I got my first phone. It was the Nokia Brick, as people called it, and essentially all I did was play Snake and pretend to know how to use it. But then as the years went on, I got a Motorola Razr, a Palm Pilot, and then the iPhone. The iPhone truly changed the playing field for me and most everyone else, because it's when I first realized that I could not really live without this device, and I saw how much it improved almost every aspect of my life. And since then, smartphones and smart devices in general have only gotten smaller, faster, more feature-rich. I mean, the average American spends almost 3 hours on a smartphone or smart device per day. And for many of us, that number is even higher. Almost half of all online transactions now occur via a mobile website or an application. And that's everything from shopping to entertainment to YouTube apps or purchases. So with this heavy reliance on mobile devices, it's never been more important that the experience for the end user is positive and user-friendly. And when it comes to this usability testing, some common questions that people in the world of UX have experienced for the past 20 plus years are things like these. How do I understand if something is user friendly? How do I know if my advertisements are being seen or not? How do I compare my version versus a different prototype or competitors? Because, we've been grappling with these same kind of issues for a long time, but now that mobile has come along, we really have to shift our perspective and update our approaches to match this new world of mobile. And I think this cartoon nicely illustrates the idea that things don't always translate well from a desktop screen down to a mobile perspective. And because of that, there's going to be a lot of usability testing required. And a great tool to do this is eye tracking. And to help further unpack this idea of shifting focus to the world of mobile, I have some great examples on the next few slides showing a couple different applications and the ways eye tracking was used with mobile devices. The first example is UX testing on a new mobile app. So let's say you just launched a hot new startup offering online ticket sales at great prices. Exciting. And now, as I mentioned before, there's definitely those traditional research approaches such as surveys, focus groups, shadowing as people use the app, and those are all great. But if you're really looking for a way to take the understanding of user experience to that next level, you want to bring in eye tracking. It's almost if you imagine Tony Stark as he was testing out his Iron Man suit and all of his technology. He went above and beyond traditional methods just to make sure he understood to the best of his ability what the experience was going to be like. So let's go ahead and take a look. Here's the video of a person using a smartphone. In this case, the task was browse the new site for concert tickets as you normally would, add the event to your cart, and check out. As we can see, they're checking out the diagram at the very top, checking out the seating sections, looking down to the corresponding floor locations, over to the pricing, back and forth. Some body language there indicating some confusion, frustration. It looks like things aren't going too well. Let's now take a look at the data behind that example. On the left, we have what's called a heat map. This is a high-level representation of where the overall attention was distributed during the recording. As we can see here, the attention was divided into 3 separate spots: the seating map at the very top, the floor locations on the left, and the pricing on the right. The next visual here is what's called a gaze plot. This shows the sequential order and duration of each point of focus made by the user, and both of these visuals together tell the story of a visually inefficient process. So the user has to look in 3 separate spots over 15 seconds per spot, back and forth over 14 times just to locate and select their tickets. So in terms of some takeaways, you might consider utilizing the white space at the very top on that seating map. Perhaps you can add more information on where certain rows start and stop, as well as consider consolidating the information into one spot. So rather than have the user look in 3 different places, maybe they could just hover or click with their mouse and find all the information located in one position. And finally, you might consider filters to the front. What this means is that maybe before this ticket screen even pops up, the user can select a certain filter to look at things like price ranges, floor sections. That way it limits the amount of choices they have on this final screen and makes the entire process more efficient. Our next example is attention to mobile advertising. Now, I'm sure we all have experience with this, but you pick up your smartphone, your tablet, you're browsing some app or mobile website, and at some point, an ad's going to pop or float across the screen trying to get some sort of message across. And the question here is which delivery method is going to get the most attention for your brand. So in this case, we looked at ads in mobile games, on social media, and news websites, which is going to get the most attention with mobile advertisements. In keeping with the superhero theme, just imagine Commissioner Gordon in Batman. It's very important for him to understand which form of advertising is most effective in getting Batman's attention to help the people of Gotham. Answer, he sends out the bat signal into the clouds, and Batman saves the day. Let's take a look at an eye tracking recording to go along with this example. Here we have a person walking down the hallway as they browse the Forbes website, and they're reading back and forth paragraphs of text. And as you can see, there's some embedded visuals as well as advertisements in between those paragraphs. So we can very clearly see how the attention is going in between text and content, as well as those advertisements in between the paragraphs. But let's take a look deeper with what the eye tracking data adds to the overall equation. So here, with eye tracking, we can understand which ads are actually seen in the wild. Meaning, as people interact and handle their smart devices, walking down the street, the sidewalk, are they actually seeing your advertisements? And second, if you're deploying advertisements in mobile games, social media apps, news websites, in which platform are you likely to see the most results? And here we found that on news websites, the highest number of people glanced at those advertisements. You can also understand which advertisements actually left an impression. So in this case, across both groups, the recall was very low. And you can go even more in depth and understand what parts of the ad were actually seen. So we can see here that the overall tagline was seen by a very large majority of the population versus the brand itself was seen by very few people. So for our takeaways, we can see that news sites are the most effective for visibility, but the recall for the specific advertisement, it's very low. So perhaps you should change around the location of the branding, the background color, the font. All these types of suggestions can be supported by this eye tracking data when you go back to your design team or your decision makers. And next, example number 3, my personal favorite, eye tracking in today's smart home. So in today's world, as you enter your house, you can control your doorbell, your thermostat, lighting, sound, TV. It's all controlled through these smart apps. And to quote Peter Parker from Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. And what I mean by that is that these apps literally control your comfort level in your own home. So it's very important for these apps to be tested to make sure they're effective, they're safe, and they're user-friendly, because you want to understand how do consumers use these apps to control these devices. Are there certain points where they're getting lost? What's the satisfaction with the overall usability of your app? And eye tracking is going to give you a fantastic, unobtrusive tool for answering all 3 of these critical questions. Let's watch an example of a smart home in action with a wearable eye tracker. So here the overall task was just a person to enjoy a relaxing evening at home using various smart devices and apps as you normally would. So the first app we see here is a person using the Amazon Alexa app and using the various controls and buttons to enter a command that Alexa repeats back. Eye tracking is really neat.
From Thomas, eye tracking is really neat.
So as you can see, very easy browsing between the different screens and controls. And it's just so important as we use these different apps to control those very important features of our home. And now we're controlling some interactive lighting via the NanoLeaf app. Checking out different options to display on the smart tiles. Looking over for confirmation that the pattern's being displayed. And now selecting some music to further enjoy the moment. So thinking back to those 3 overall questions earlier, how are people using these apps? Are there any pain points? What's the overall satisfaction? The eye tracking is really going to help you understand, is it an intuitive user interface? Is it effective? And see the interactions from the perspective of the user. So you're going to understand if they're looking at the NanoLeaf, for example, as they're playing with the different options. Are they focusing on the soundbar? How much time are they spending on each of the apps? So some takeaways are visual efficiency is key to user satisfaction. So if you look at the Alexa example on the left here and compare it to that ticketing example from the earlier slide, you can see there are far fewer glances. There's a nice smooth top to bottom path of exploration. Overall, just much more efficient. With the nanoleaf, you're able to understand that there's definitely a visual indicator between when they're using the app, when they're checking out which pattern they selected. But also there was a lot of scrolling up and down, so maybe some problematic features here with an overly heavy reliance on scrolling and maybe a bit of a crowded UI screen. So at this point, I'm sure all of you are on the edge of your seats and thinking, how can I add this eye tracking superpower to my research toolkit? And I'm happy to tell you that all the examples, the hardware, the software you've seen today, all of it comes from Tobii Pro. Tobii Pro is the global leader in eye tracking research and technology, and the thing I want to highlight first is that within Tobii, we actually have our own internal group of literal research superheroes that's called Tobii Pro Insight. And Insight is there to help with any aspect of your eye tracking projects, from design to recruitment to analysis to reporting. We've done projects all over the world with companies big and small, and we're there to make sure the eye tracking experience is positive and as smooth as possible. So it's just a great option because with this, you can actually work with the eye tracking experts from Tobii while you become eye tracking experts yourselves. In addition to our own internal research team, we also have our own eye tracking hardware. The recommended solution for mobile device testing and the hardware we used for all the examples shown today is our Pro Glasses 2 solution. It's going to be a great, flexible, mobile, wearable eye tracker, and after the presentation, just let us know if you want more information on specs and features of the device. Happy to send those over. In addition to the hardware, Tobii also has eye tracking software. You can use Sprint for quick and agile qualitative testing, and if you're thinking mobile device, we have some great emulator features within Sprint. Or if you want more robust quantitative analysis, so creating those visuals like heat maps and pulling out detailed metrics on attention, we have our Pro Lab software suite as well. So across the board, all phases of your mobile research can be conducted with Tobii eye tracking software. Once again, I want to thank everyone for coming to the webinar and spending your time. I really appreciate it, and enjoy the rest of your week.